topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Who is January Jones? She is not a young, beautiful, talented actress on Mad Men. She is not an older, gorgeous, exotic dancer from the Johnny Carson Show. She is an author, and she wrote, Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th Commandment, that reached #1 at Amazon.com. She is a reality TV golf personality with World High Stakes Golf televised on HDNet. She is a humorist and winologist expert. She is your featured host today on January Jones Sharing Success Stories. So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh and listen to Ms. Jones with her eclectic roster of guests as you learn life's lessons. These stories plus sharing equals success. Welcome, and remember, beware, because you are entering the no whining world of January Jones.
Hello everyone. I hope you're having a glittery and glowing day. I'm January Jones, and I'd like to welcome you to our podcast today. I'm so excited because, as you can see, I have my glittering yellow hat, I have my glitter cane, my glitter watch, my glitter ring, and Glitter Granny has opened up. My website is now available at Amazon and on the internet, glittergranny.com. You can start shopping there and subscribing. I'll tell you more about it later. Now for my listeners, let me ask you a question. Have you ever signed up for a training course anywhere, on the internet or at a school? And when someone says something is 5 minutes of training, what do you think right away? Are you thinking it might be a gimmick of some sort? Well, are you ready to listen to some new interesting information? Tell me, have you ever heard about a book by the name of Small Book with a Big Idea? The Power of Listening in a World of Differences. Yes. If you can answer yes or maybe to any of these questions, then you are in the right place. And I'd like to welcome you to January Jones Sharing Senior Success Stories. Yes, you heard that right, senior. Now it's time, rest, relax, go get some cheese, get some crackers, get a glass of wine, iced tea, whatever. Now let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. She was born in 1950, so that makes her a senior. In my opinion, that makes her a young senior. She is a living testament to the transformation power of poetry and the resilience of the human spirit. She is a Chinese American, and in her lifetime, she has dealt with anorexia and also with cancer. She's not just an author, but she is a visionary, a beacon of light, and an educator who embodies all the stories she tells. She is a graduate of Boston College, and it's my pleasure to welcome to our podcast today, Sara Ting. Hi, Sara. How are you doing today, dear?
Hi, January. Thank you so much. And just a couple of minor corrections. It's a small book, 5-minute training to empower you and transform the world.
Oh, 5-minute training. Well, that's what we're going to be talking about. 5-minute training. I don't think anyone has trained me in 5 minutes to do anything.
Yes. And also, it was my alma mater, Boston University.
Yes. Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Now, let's start with your background.
Sure.
Where were you raised? Who were your mentors? Tell us a bit about how your success story began.
Sure. Well, so I was raised in New York City, and I grew up at a time when the Asian population was very, very small in America. The American population at the time was about 152 million for the entire country.
Okay.
And the Asian American population for the entire country was a little bit over 330,000
Okay.
for the entire country. So many,
Yeah.
many times I kind of experienced being the only one, like thinking going back, reflecting in elementary school, out of 600 students, my sister and I were the only Asian female students.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I'm used to being the only one. And
Yeah.
I do remember, this is kind of funny. I do remember this one question a student asked me, and I was about maybe 10 or 11 years old, and the student
Mhm.
asked me, could I smile when I laughed?
Oh,
Could I see? I'm sorry. Could I see when I laughed? Because
okay.
my
Right.
eyes are slanted, right? And when I laughed, it turned into threads. So he asked me, "Could you see when you laugh?"
That's a great question. I love that.
It was an innocent question by a child, but it was profound for me because I never forgot that question.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Right? It made me realize at the tender age of 10 or 11, well, I guess I'm really different.
So you were in New York City
Yes.
and the Chinese population. We lived on the West Coast for so long in California. And in the California area, there's a much larger Asian population. But I guess in New York, you were really, you stood out in the crowd, didn't you?
Well, this was, in Queens, so not Manhattan, in Queens. And this
Uh,
again, it was at a time when the Asian population for the entire country was very small. So we're talking about
okay.
the entire country. And it's
Okay.
true what you said, January, on the West Coast, it's true that the Asian population was probably larger than where
Mhm.
I was growing up in Queens, New York. And historically, if you think about it, there was the Chinese exclusion law in 1882.
Okay.
And that Chinese exclusion law um, was specifically designed to limit the number of Chinese American coming into the country because at the time it was they were building the transatlantic railroad across the country, and
Okay. I know about that.
the
Yeah.
Chinese American were willing to work much cheaper labor, and so there was the issue of
Mhm.
money and
Mhm.
the Irish at the time, they felt it was like taking jobs away from them, so they
Oh,
created this law called the Chinese Exclusion Law,
excuse
1882.
18.
And you know what's unfortunate, Janet, is because we don't have a national curriculum where everybody has a common understanding of our history. There are some
Mhm.
people who never heard about the Chinese Exclusion Law, and some people
Mhm.
who did. And that is why we have the challenges we have. And
Right.
there are some people who don't even know about the Japanese internment camp.
Oh my gosh, yes, yes. And I have friends that in California that they experienced that. And so they shared their stories with me. And it's so sad that people don't know about. I mean, heck, people are still trying to find out about the Civil War. And then now we have all this discussion, this negative discussion about immigrants, which I just find it appalling. And yes, your point is well taken. People are uneducated.
Yeah, and so it's unfortunate that we don't have a national curriculum, a common understanding of the
Hmm.
history of this country. And no country is free of its challenges with any kind of biases and prejudice. Every country has its particular brand. And when I do my training, my DEI training, I try and help people understand no one is a terrible person for having a bias or prejudice. They learned it. I mean, babies are not born into the world with prejudice and biases. They learn them. And so we really need to kind of reframe this whole issue. And I'm so sorry, my camera keeps kind of tilting here on me. But we need to reframe it. We need to reframe it and realize that in order to grow as a person, personally and professionally, we just all need to have to work on ourselves and overcoming our biases. And there's a really wonderful quote by Madame Curie, who she's only one of 5 people who won the Nobel Prize in Science twice. Now, can you
Oh,
imagine?
I
Yeah, can
know
you
about it. It's amazing.
yeah, can you imagine the gender biases she must have went through as a woman in the field of science?
Oh,
So I want to
wow.
share this quote with you because I think it's such a simple but right on the mark quote. She said, "You cannot hope to build a better world without improving the individual. To that end, each of us must work on our own improvement." So think about it. Here she is
Yeah.
a woman in the field of science, and she probably
Hmm.
went through a lot of gender biases, but she didn't talk about creating a new policy or
Yeah.
new law because she realized, well, it's people who create the policies and laws. And so if the people who create these policies and laws don't kind of do the work on themselves, you could easily put a bias in the policy or the law.
Oh, absolutely. Which is something that we're seeing
Yes,
happen. Yeah.
yes,
When we talk about that, I always go back to that beloved musical, South Pacific, and the incredible song where they say, "You have to
yes,
be tall."
Catholic
And
child.
I hear that, it brings tears to my eyes because it is just so true. It's such a beautiful song, and I wish it could be played every day for all of the people out there who haven't been taught properly.
I, I couldn't agree with you more, January. That's such a beautiful song. You are right on the mark. I couldn't agree with you more. It's a beautiful song to help us all realize we're taught prejudice and bias. It's not natural. We are taught it.
Uh-huh.
You
Yeah,
know what's
and
natural? Jenny, you know what's natural? The sun
what?
shines on all of us. That's natural.
Mhm. I'm wearing my sun hat too, dear.
Yeah.
And you look at these beautiful children that come into the world that we love and embrace and hold to our hearts. And they're so sweet. They're so innocent. They have no hatred. They have no bigotry.
No,
They're just pure. And you
right.
just wish that somehow we could maintain that, keep that for them. Tell us now just a little bit about your parents. What was it like for your parents, and what was it like growing up? And I assume they were born in China, right?
Right. Both of them were born in mainland China. And they
Mhm.
were newlyweds when they came to America. They were
Okay. Uh,
newlyweds, and they had 4 children the first 4 years of their marriage. 4, January.
well, we know they weren't Catholic, but
Yeah, yeah. And 4 children with no support system. No support
oh,
system. So,
oh,
and now remember, and they're immigrants. So, it when as I got older, I could understand and appreciate the challenges they must have went through as
right.
Chinese Americans here in America, and so it was difficult for them having 4 children and uh, not
What what did
no support.
what did your father do for a living? I know what your mother did. She was
Yeah,
home
yeah.
taking
So my
baby.
father, yes. So my father was at the time a diplomat representing the nationalist Chinese government, and he at one point he had to make a decision to go back to China because the government wanted him to go back. And that time I was about 11 or 12 years old, and he made the decision to stay here in America because none of us knew a word of Chinese. And the reason
Yeah.
why we didn't is because the teachers told my parents, don't teach your children Chinese because they were afraid it might affect our English, learning English. So they never taught us Chinese. So they
Mhm.
knew that if they were to go back, it would be such a struggle for us. And so they stayed here for our education. And that one decision, January, changed the destiny of my life because clearly if my father decided to go back, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you.
Yeah. And that I can attest to.
Yeah.
My grandmother came from Poland, and it was interesting. She and her children all spoke Polish, but the
Hmm.
grandchildren, we were never allowed for the same reason to learn Polish or speak Polish because the thing here was we had to fit in, we had to assimilate. Oh my
See,
gosh, this is so much fun to talk to you. We're going to take a break right now. And
great.
you're not a whiner, but this break is for people who whine or if you know someone who whines.
Lately, there's a whining epidemic in our world. People are even whining about whining. Are you sick and tired of listening to everyone whining all the time? So was January Jones, the author of Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th commandment that reached #1 at Amazon.com. Ms. Jones based her book on a survey of the top 10 things that people whine about at all ages and all stages of life. January is a success coach that can tell you how to help others. When you buy Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th commandment, you'll find out what people whine about and how to stop them from whining. This is the perfect gift book to give or get for any occasion. Thou Shalt Not Whine was voted the best gift to be given anonymously for those special people in your life. Ms. Jones is an internationally known author in the style of Irma Bombeck, specializing in housewife humor with her book being published in Korea and China. You can find Thou Shalt Not Whine at Amazon.com.
Welcome back with my delightful senior guest today, Sara Ting. And Sara, would you share with my listeners your website, your information, how they can get your book?
Sure. Well, I actually have two websites. One is asthesun.net. So sun, S-U-N, as the sun, S-U-N.net, and sarating.com.
Okay.
Sarating.com.
Ting. Okay, wonderful. And I was reading background and doing research on you before the show, and there's this mention of this incredible poem that you wrote. That's another thing that totally changed your life too, didn't it?
It certainly did, January. That's why I wrote the book. It's inspired the book and all the work I've been doing for the last 30 years.
Okay. Now, for our listeners, could you recite the poem?
Sure. So it's called the Sun Poem, S-U-N. It says, "Are you greater than the sun that shines on everyone? Black, brown, yellow, red, and white. The sun does not discriminate." Can you get any simpler than that, January? The sun does not discriminate.
I mean, I'd say that poem just tells it like it is, basically where we're both coming from. So once you wrote that poem, was it published, or tell us how this all germinated, how you became such a
Sure.
renowned author?
Well, the poem was written in 1978, and it was written in a personal journal. It was actually never meant to be public.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And the poem came out of a journey that I was on, a spiritual journey to learn about God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I was one of those people. I didn't know if God really existed, but I was willing to go on this journey and learn about God. And I thought the best place to learn about God is find a place of worship, right, January? A place of worship.
Well, you would think.
And so, yeah, I know, you would think. And so I get all excited. I'm going to learn about God. I just got to find a place of worship. And so this is in Boston, and there are many, many churches in Boston. And this is
Okay.
back in the late 70s.
Okay.
And I go to this first place of worship. I'm all excited. But then at the end of the services, I'm hoping someone's going to say good morning or welcome to me, something, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody says one word to me. It was like I was invisible. I wasn't there. So I
Oh,
thought this was strange. And I said to myself, I don't think I'm going to find what I'm looking for here.
right. That was easy.
I, yeah. I said, I am determined to find a place of worship. So I go to another place, same thing happened again. So then I
Oh,
thought, okay, maybe I'll go across the river to another church. Another Sunday, I go a place across the river and I find this place of worship where the music was perfectly divine, absolutely beautiful. And this was
mhm.
actually a predominantly black church. All the other churches were predominantly white. So now I'm in a predominantly black church.
Mhm.
But the same thing happened. Nobody said good morning. not one single word to me. And I said, okay, we'll try another one. I go back across the river to another community. And now this place is mostly elderly people, and there are not too many people. I'm thinking, oh, this doesn't look like it's going to be around too long. So I
Yeah.
left. And then I said to myself, I'm a very outgoing person like January. I don't have any problem saying good morning, hello. I'll go back to Boston. So I go back to Boston and I come to this place with about 200 people. And I
Uh-huh.
look around at the end of the services. I see this couple. I go, they look like a warm, friendly couple. I'll go up to them. So I go up. I introduce myself. I said, this is my first time here. How many years have you been coming here? They go, several years. I go, good. And I'm
Mhm.
hoping to have like an engaging, warm conversation. No,
Nothing.
it was a
Wow.
light conversation and they walked away. So at that point, January, I said, I was really feeling very dejected. And I can
Mhm.
even remember what I was wearing that day. It's over 50. I remember what I was wearing. I had a white beret on. My hair fell down to my waist. I had a dark velvet green coat that tied up the waist and
Mhm.
maroon boots up to my knee. It was a gray New England day. Gray New England day. The bus came. I stepped onto the bus, sat in my seat. I leaned my head against the window, and then all of a sudden the sun's rays came shining through the window. And I
Uh,
hear this calm male voice, right side, speak to me. And the
really?
voice said, yep. The voice said, I don't just shine on you, Sarah. I shine on everyone.
Oh,
And that's when
wow.
I started the poem.
That's
Are
when you
you
became.
greater than the sun that shines on everyone? Black, brown, yellow, red, and white. The sun does not discriminate. I think, January, now that I have a deeper understanding of God and the
Yes.
Holy Spirit. I think
Uh-huh.
it was the Holy Spirit to me,
Okay.
or Jesus, one of the two. and,
Well,
and
that
that's
I can go with that, and it's interesting looking back when you're speaking. I'm thinking about my childhood. I was raised Catholic, and we went to church and all the time. And at that time, at the end of the services, strangers would come in and it would be hello, goodbye, whatever. No one ever reached out. But then now they have a ceremony where people shake hands with everyone around them. And I'm thinking, why couldn't we have been doing this for years and years ago? Let me ask you, what were you raised Buddhist or were you
no,
raised?
my actually, thank you for that question. My parents, I was raised Presbyterian, and so
Oh.
we were introduced to churches, but we never. It wasn't indoctrinated in us. All I knew is that okay, there is this entity called God,
Mm-hmm.
and we went to church. But did I really believe in God? As a child, I can't honestly say yes. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
began this journey in my 20s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now I absolutely do deeply believe in God.
Well,
Never.
I do too. And at this stage of life, I've embraced a spirituality that is non-denominational because I have come to the point in life where it's more important to love everyone, love every color, love every creed. Hey, we're all going to go to the same place, I hope. And I think if you try to live a good life, you're on the right road. And I think it's much simpler than organized religion makes it out to be.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, I mean, unfortunately, there's so many different religions, and some of them actually divide us more than bring us together.
Yeah. Well, as you know, through the world, most of the big wars have been caused by religions. And we see that now in the Middle East. It's totally about religion. And that is such a sad commentary on our times. So you did this search when you were 28. You had already graduated from Boston University. And were you married at that time? Did you have children or
No,
family? You,
I've never done it yet. January, that special guy hasn't shown
oh,
up.
maybe he'll see you on the show for sure. There are all these young people, they're all going on websites to start dating and meeting people. So maybe you'll have a glitter granny collection. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
It would. Well,
Yes.
I just have a lot of faith in God that
Hmm.
my life, I have valued every moment of my life. I don't have any regrets. I feel that everything that has happened to me in my life happened for a reason. And so
Right.
for me, it's up to me to decide what to do with that experience and never ever let it um, hold me back
Hmm.
or make me feel like a victim. Every everything that happens in our life, for me, it always happens for a reason. And the biggest challenges that maybe create the biggest heartaches are the opportunities for the biggest growth in our life.
Yes. Yes. And this is a message that I was given to by my one grandmother, my Polish grandmother, who immigrated here when she was 20. And everything she would say would be the worst things. If you just wait it out, they'll turn out to be the best things. And it's a cycle, and it's so true, and it's so hard to get that message across to young people because it seems like when something bad happens, they seem to want it to be the end of the world, and little do they know it's the beginning for them. The
And
you
I,
learn
and
you learn from the bad negative things. Yeah,
I
those
agree
are
with you. Yeah, I agree with everything you said, January. I think part of the challenge for the young people today is, social media and internet and this digital
yeah,
world didn't exist 30 years ago. Now it's like instant everything. And so it's conditioning us to be impatient and want everything instantly. And I have to be mindful to myself. We have to cultivate patience, and
yes,
humility. These are two important qualities I feel that is important for us to cultivate so that we can lead happy, fulfilling life, especially, the humility and the patience. It's really, really important.
mhm. And then one thing as you, grow older, it's very important to, realize that the big thing in life is gratitude. A lot of people forget to have gratitude for the wonderful things they've been giving. Now, you're talking about, in our next segment, we're gonna take a break and talk about some priceless personalities who have been on the show. But when we come back, I want to discuss this 5-minute thing. Because as I said in the opening, I don't think I've ever been able to learn anything in 5 minutes. So when we come back, we're going to discuss that with Sara Ting. And right now, we're going to hear about some other amazing, priceless personalities who have been here on the show with us. Have you ever met someone who was unforgettable? Someone who has touched your heart and soul? People who have faced difficult problems? People who have struggled to find solutions? People who fearlessly shared their stories? People who have not only informed you but inspired you? People who have priceless personalities? I have been fortunate to host an internet radio talk show called January Jones Sharing Success Stories, and it has been my privilege to interview hundreds of guests. My guests have shared their stories, their struggles, their secrets, and their successes in their own words. In this book, we're talking about people dealing with problems such as incest, molestation, runaway kids, child abuse, drug abuse, polygamy, unemployment, scandal, and starting over. Then there are my guests dealing with difficult physical struggles such as blindness, cancer, and birth defects that are beyond traumatic. My guests have all been exciting, eclectic, and energizing. They have amazed, amused, and even astonished me. I have adored getting to meet them, and I adore sharing them with you.
Attention all listeners. Priceless Personalities, Success Stories Shared by January Jones, Volume 2 is now available at Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle editions. You'll be able to meet 10 amazing people who will be sharing their own personal stories with all their struggles, successes, and solutions, sprinkled with lots of humor and hope. Priceless Personalities features a teenager who becomes one of the famous Supremes for Motown, a nurse who as a humorist helps people to heal, an inspiring laughter yoga instructor, a mother dealing with the loss of a child, an incredible motivational speaker, a woman who married 5 times, a gifted paranormal nurse, a wise economist, a funny female humorist, along with an older man sharing his sweet childhood in the Deep South. January's guests are all amazing and amusing. You will never forget meeting them. Go to Amazon.com for your own priceless experience.
Welcome back with my delightful senior guest, Sara Ting. Now, this book is amazing, and I'd like you to share a little bit about what prompted you to write it. Small book with big ideas, 5-minute training with, I want to hear all about who you can train what in 5 minutes.
I know. Well, January, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show, and thank you for your book, Thou Shalt Not Whine. I couldn't agree with you more. Yes. So before I tell you about this book, I want to let you know that the Michigan National Guard ordered 200 copies.
Wow.
That's the National Guard. And Unilever, which is a global company, they sponsored 5,000 for a national conference. Now, you and I know didn't place these orders because they liked the title. Someone vetted the book. They vetted it before they placed their order.
Okay.
And so you're probably going to be shocked when I tell you this book was inspired by the Sun poem.
Okay. Good.
That should
Wonderful.
give you a little bit of a hint, the Sun poem. And so what I realized, January, is that some people, I need to break the poem down for them. I need to take it word by word, line by line. So the 5-minute training, I set people up. Before you take this 5-minute training, go into a quiet place, turn off your cell phone, and be prepared to give your full attention to each word on the page of this book.
Okay.
Remember, no cell phone, no noise, your full attention. And here's the most important piece. And be willing to put your pride and your ego aside.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Right. Okay.
Right?
This is going to be a challenge.
Right? And so we break the poem down in the first line. Are you greater than the sun? That's the sentence on the first. Am I greater than the sun? Of course I'm not. Keen that shines on everyone. Now here's where it gets challenging. Black. The word black is on the page all by itself. How do you really feel about black people?
Okay.
Right? Then the next brown. So these are just one word on one page. Brown.
Okay.
Yellow. Red. The whole thing takes 5 minutes or less. And the last line, the sun does not discriminate.
Oh, that's wonderful. You have now taught me something in 5 minutes. Well, I actually knew that before, but for anyone who's listening, this is a very powerful message you're putting out there, dear. Yeah.
Thank you, January. And you know what, January? You might find this hard to believe. I find it hard to believe. Let's just pretend you and I were friends when I wrote this poem. We knew each other. And you said to me, Sarah, what does this poem mean? And I tell you what it means because I wrote it, right? Fast forward 20 years later, I go, January, remember that poem you asked me about? Yeah, I remember, sir. And remember when I told you what it meant back 25 years ago, 30 years ago? Yeah, I remember. Well, January, guess what? It means more than what I told you, and I didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Yeah. You were, I'd say, an instrument of delivery. And when you say I refer to it as the spirit, the unknown spirit that actually communicates with all of us, in my opinion. I think if you turn off all the electronics and take time, you'll actually get messages from the other side. Not necessarily what you want to hear, but probably what you need to hear. That's my experience. How about you?
I love everything what you just said. I ditto underscore, especially what you said, an instrument of delivery. We
Yeah.
all, and you know what I've experienced, January, and tell me if you've experienced this. So it's true, I wrote a second book called The Power of Listening in a World of Differences. So here's
Mhm.
what I've experienced. When I feel someone is genuinely listening to me and fully
Mhm.
present,
Yeah.
I say things that I've never said before. Like it just comes out of my mouth. And like, wow, I never said that before. Have you ever
Mhm.
experienced that where you talk to somebody and they're
Mhm.
they're so present with you and
Yeah.
listening to you that all of a sudden something comes out of your mouth like, wow, I'm saying that for the first time.
Yeah. 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 And it's interesting. It's when that connection is made, which, by the way, I feel I have with you today. Some things you don't even have to say because they're already there. And I think we've walked down some of the same roads, some of the same paths. And it takes a lifetime to realize this, to realize these what we've been given. And it's wonderful that you've chosen to share this with so many people. That's amazing. Good work,
No,
dear.
what you said again is I couldn't agree with you more. It takes a lifetime. It takes a lifetime to, first of all, I think, to know yourself. And I think in order for all of us to continue to grow personally and professionally, you have to cultivate self-awareness. You
Mhm.
cannot grow if you don't take time to reflect on yourself,
Right.
both good and bad. And the thing that I think we have to be aware of is don't beat up on yourself. And this is what happens. You hear people saying, "Oh, that was dumb what you did," like criticizing themselves. Like that was
Mhm.
the stupidest thing you ever did. And so you just have to be mindful of the things you say to yourself. We have to be our own best friend. We have to know how to be gentle and compassionate. And of course, yes, we make mistakes. And those are the times when you need to be the most compassionate with yourself because
Mhm.
the world has become so impatient with one another because of this conditioning, like immediate click, you get this, click, you get that, click, click, click. And we are in this world where everybody has the opportunity to create their own little world. Literally,
Mhm.
literally. And
Yeah.
I sometimes I ask myself, well, when do you get to interact with somebody? You go outside and you see these people wearing ear pods. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't talk to them if they're wearing ear pods. And so I'm saying to myself, what? So do you only want to talk to the people that you know? Well,
Or think the way you think.
yeah. But how do we grow? It's amazing when I take my walk around this beautiful pond and I don't talk to every single person I meet. I let the
Mm.
spirit move me.
Uh-huh.
I met this one woman, January. She told me she walks to work every day and it's an hour walk.
Yeah.
1 hour. She walked to work every day. And then I said to this person at the post office, I go, I met this woman. He goes, well, a young man does the same thing. He walks to work and it's more than an hour. I go, you're kidding me. See, I mean,
Well
how did I learn this? By talking to people, you know?
well, I hear you because the other day this is so good. This is a fun story. The other day, I was in the, parking lot, and I backed up, and even though I had my camera and all that, I bumped into another car. The lady got out, I got out, we kind of took pictures with our iPhones because that's what people do these days. Turns out we've now become best friends.
See?
And we go out to breakfast with our husbands once a week, and we have Polish grandmothers. We both are Polish, or we thought we were all Polish, and we just had this connection. And, if you just put it out there, it can happen anywhere.
Absolutely right. And one of the reasons why I wrote this book, January, is because going back to, I realized that for some people, I just really needed to break the poem down for them and to
Oh,
help them fully understand the depth and breadth of it. Because I can almost guarantee you, a year from now or 2 years from now, if you reflected on this poem, you might discover something new for
mhm,
yourself that you didn't realize at the time. And
mhm.
so, to me, I remember this interview with an author, and he was a best-selling author like you. And he said in the interview, he said, write because you have something to say.
Yes. Mhm.
So when
Yes.
I write a book, it's because I feel I have something to say that's not being said. And clearly, I know for a fact, because I wrote the poem, you will not find this poem anywhere else in the entire world. You will not find this exercise anywhere else. And to me, this book is timeless, universal, and transformative. It can serve people for the rest of their life. It's not a trendy book that will be outdated. Put it this way, the day the sun no longer shines, you can throw the book away.
Well, that's why I feel our connection is so incredible because I was doing the research and I really didn't know what the name of the poem was. I was just kind of in my mind looking for it and thinking, and I was getting ready to do the show. And I have to tell you this, I have never worn my yellow glitter hat on any other show.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, really, that's true, honest. And so somehow I found my yellow hat and my fun beads, and I was ready to welcome the sun. Yeah, that was amazing.
You were. And you know
Mhm.
what? Yellow, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of colors have different meanings to them. And yellow,
Uh,
my understanding, the color of yellow is the color for joy.
oh, okay. Yeah,
Joy.
I love it. Well, this is a first for yellow. I hope we get a lot of listeners. I
Yeah.
hope the message goes out to everyone. It's been really fun connecting with you. What do you do now for a living besides being a brilliant writer?
Well, so this poem inspired this wonderful nonprofit
Oh,
called
okay.
World Unit Inc., which I've been dedicated to for now 30 years, World Unit Inc. And I do diversity inclusion training,
Uh-huh.
and I give talks. So I pretty much have dedicated my life to advancing equality for all people. This book is one of the tools, and my nonprofit is really where I have devoted pretty much most of my time. And believe it or not, January, the poem has also inspired this beautiful landmark, a permanent landmark. There's a design concept for it. It
Oh,
has been accepted to be part of Dorchester Bay City development, so it will be a permanent landmark with this poem so that the truth will never be distorted. Future generations will know what equality is. And the
mhm.
poem also inspired a song called We All See the Stars. And the
Oh,
song was performed at the United Nations by children, by
oh,
children. And the children love the song. The challenge, January, but maybe it being on your wonderful show will help. There are millions of children who don't know the song, millions. And
yeah.
the children who learn it, they love it. One little boy said when he sings it, it makes him feel like he can do anything. We want
Mm.
all children to feel that way. And
Oh,
another boy said when he sings it, it inspires him. And here's the
mhm.
most powerful one, January. A little girl named Annie said, one day the world will hear this song and it will stop discrimination. Her words, not mine. That's how
Wow.
powerful she felt. One day the
Mm.
world will hear the song and it will stop discrimination.
Okay. Yeah. And when I'm looking back on my life, one of my daughters, they all were ice skaters and they would do these performances and everything at the ice rink. And I would get to help them choose the music. And for one of the recitals for my daughter Brooke, I chose the song Here Comes the Sun. And I made her a rainbow skating outfit, and when she skated, it just brought tears to my eyes, and, her skating was the same message. The sun does not discriminate. The sun's here for everyone. The sun loves everyone. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
the question becomes, answering that question, am I greater than the sun that shines on everyone? So we just
Mhm.
have to be willing to kind of look inside our hearts and our soul and ask ourselves, well, how do I feel about this group, this group? Like, just go down the list.
Mhm.
It's not any more complicated than that. And we just all, to me, the poem can also help root us all in our humanity first. That's what we all have in common. We're all human beings first. That's where we need to be rooted. The
Mhm.
differences are the beauty of who we are. So when I go out into the world, I'm a human being first. I don't go out into the world, oh, I'm Chinese first. No, I'm a human being. I
Mhm.
don't look just to connect with the other Chinese people. I'll connect with any human being. And
Mhm.
so the question becomes what holds us back from talking to somebody who maybe looks different than us? What holds us back? Saying hello or talking to somebody who has a different point of view? Why are we
Mhm.
so afraid of one another?
And one of the big points I've made in Thou Shalt Not Whine, and I call it the smile cure. And I was born I'm a contagious smiler. I smile. One time I had surgery and I was in the recovery room and the doctor says, "Why is she smiling?" But when you smile, or like when you're in line at the post office and reach out to someone and smile, guess what? There's a connection. It happens. It's that easy, isn't it?
It is. Yes, it
Yeah.
is. And I don't
Mhm.
know how we got this way, where we're so afraid of what, well, I do to some degree. Again, I go back to social media and the internet, which
Yeah.
is a powerful tool that's promoting and perpetuating different biases and prejudices and feeding people's fears,
Mhm.
unfortunately. And so we have to be very mindful of what we're taking in and what we're holding on to.
Yes. Well, I think that, it's been such a long time. Your message is pure, so loving, and I think that we just have to share this with everyone we know, and it's been incredible having you on the show today. Just I always ask everyone before I close out, if you could invite one person, living or dead, besides me, to have dinner with you, who would you invite?
Oh, you know what came to my mind?
Who?
Mahatma Gandhi.
Okay.
I don't know. That was who popped into my head. And then maybe Jesus Christ.
And then if we're doing it together, we should throw in Mother Teresa.
Yeah. Mother Teresa. Yeah. And by the way,
Oh,
I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but I did have the honor to deliver a TED talk. And
I
so the
know.
poem is in my TED talk, and it tells two other dramatic stories of how the poem impacted two women. And
Mhm,
I mean, it has been quite a journey for me. And there is this force greater than ourselves because things have
sure.
happened to me along this 30-year journey that is kind of on it. You would just be like so shocked. Now that who would have predicted that? I mean, for example, I'm
No,
having
no, no.
Christmas dinner.
We have to
Yeah.
go because, we're
Okay.
closing up, but this just is an opportunity for me to invite you back to give your TED Talk on my podcast in the future. Would you be willing to do that?
Deliver the whole thing? Well, maybe portions of
No,
it.
just the highlights.
Yeah.
Just the
Yeah.
highlights.
Yeah.
Oh, we have to go, and you surely must come back. And for our dear listeners, we hope you've enjoyed our time together. We've tried to be inspiring and informative. And remember the most important message I have for all of you. Keep smiling, stop whining, and go out and reach out to everyone and spread the love and your smiles all around. And, then I always say, if that doesn't work, then you can just start eating chocolate. Lots of chocolate. And here's Glitter Granny saying, thank you for being with us. Stay safe. Come back soon. We love you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jay.
We want to thank you for listening to January Jones Sharing Success Stories. Always remember Ms. Jones' personal mantra, if you can think it, you can do it. That's what all of our guests have done with their lives, and so can you. You are the ultimate success coach in your own life. All you need to do will be to start sharing your own story with your family and friends. We hope that our guest stories will encourage you to explore an equation in your future that will combine your creativity plus connecting with others will enable you to be successful too. Always remember, your passion plus your purpose will equal prosperity as you explore the wonderful world of January Jones.